All right, to the money desk now. Devon, so beyond Eskom, the problems at Transnet have been partly blamed by the economy's weak growth. I see the mining industry says they are exporting and selling less of their materials than they should be. How far are we from a lasting solution to the Transnet rail issue?
Yeah, good afternoon, Maseko. It's been a topic for some time now, and you're quite right by suggesting that many economists say, over and above what's been happening at Eskom, our logistic issues revolving around Transnet have been very, very dire for the economy. So Transnet needs parts for dozens of locomotives that are standing idle at the moment. It's crucial because everyone from miners to manufacturers, as you say, are complaining, saying billions are being lost because of the current inefficient state of our railways. Now, the state-owned China Railway Rolling Stock Corporation, it's a bit of a mouthful, which sold Transnet those locomotives, has withheld both spare parts and such related intellectual property from Transnet, and that posed a bit of a problem. We're stuck in that issue with locomotives on the railways as far as logistics are concerned. I want to bring in Bonginkosi Mabaso. He's the Chief Commercial Officer at Transnet Freight Rail. Bongi, thanks very much indeed for talking to us once again. So you have these locomotives lying idle when, you know, they could be taking lucrative mining materials to ports. That's no secret. It's been public for some time now. How many of them are lying idle? And just remind us why they are unusable at the moment. Okay. Bonge, if I could just stop you there, you perhaps muted. Maybe just start once again with unmuting yourself.
There we go. Thanks for that, Devon. I hope I'm audible now.
Okay,
and once again, thank you for welcome and a good afternoon to you and your viewers. We currently have about 161 locomotives that are currently unusable at this stage due to various breakdowns as a result of us not having access to parts. Also, as a result of us not having access to servicing the locomotives. The impact of that is we have lost quite a significant amount of volumes that we should be moving through our rail network. If you look at coal particularly, we're looking at about 14 million tons that we've had to write off in our contracts with our customers, coming down from 74 million tons committed contracts to 60 million tons, purely as a result of the losses in locomotives.
So, just take us back. I mean, you have the China Railway Rolling Stock Corporation, and we know that at some point last year, there appeared to be an agreement that this company, who, you know, we know there was a lot of controversy around that deal of 1,064 locomotives, but that company, at one point, as I understand it, agreed to actually work with Transnet, supply some of the parts needed to get these locomotives on and transfer some of the plans and property. And then things went wrong, and now you were left with these with these locomotives just being idle. What happened there? Why did it go pear-shaped?
So, Devon, what would have transpired from that point is post the embargo placed on CRRC from doing business in the country, we as Transnet took the initiatives to go and engage them and try and find amicable grounds for them coming back to, number one, supply us with the parts, but also, number two, service our locomotives, which are under warranty at this stage. We have engaged in good faith and we've had a back and forth with them to a point where we've reached an agreement insofar as the terms pertaining to them servicing our locomotives, but also in relation to them supplying the remaining parts of the locomotives that were on order. What seems to be the challenge at this stage, and that has created an impasse, is that after our agreement with them, which was in good faith, we remain with the challenge that the embargo on them doing business in the country remains in effect, and we require government in that regard to then engage the Chinese in relation to terms pertaining to them coming back to do business in the country. So in as far as an agreement between ourselves as an entity and them is concerned, that is in place. As soon as they find each other with the various state entities, such as SARS and SARB, in relation to accounting for the 1064 transaction that you've alluded to, we cannot move forward until that is then concluded at a government level.
So that's what puts us at this point in time now. That's why we are here, because you've opened it up to the public and you're saying, look, tenders are open for those who can get involved in the repair process, and you're asking these local and other companies to see how they can step in and repair and get these locomotives off the ground. What are they expected to do, though? Because as I understand it, some of these locomotives are quite peculiar to who manufactured them. Is this a tough ask?
Absolutely, it is a tough ask, but we are where we are, and we therefore need to find ways of moving forward. First of all, just to clarify, the impasse that has resulted in 161 locomotives standing at this stage will continue to impact the business further, because every day that we continue to run these locomotives in operation means that more and more of them are breaking down. So it could be that by end of this year, we are sitting at a much higher number than the 161, which would mean further volume losses for us as an organization, but also for the economy of South Africa. So what we've had to do then, because we have to move forward, is we've reached out to private sector to say those engineering entities that are involved in the locomotive manufacturing business should come to the party to see if we cannot re-engineer the parts that we require from CRRC, keeping in mind that the only supplier at this stage is the OEM CRRC. It would take some time, therefore, for any other entity to re-engineer the part. We are looking at nothing less than, at this stage, 24 months. If we estimate, we are looking at between 24 and 36 months for the first re-engineered part to be produced from those alternative service providers. But if we are able to bring on board CRRC, we are looking at no more than 6 months before we start seeing some of these locomotives being brought back into production. So we are in for quite a rough patch while we wait for a solution in relation to finding an alternative at this stage.
Yeah, I think you've just, finally, just before I let you go, I think you've answered that question. So if anything, you have to wait between 2 to 3 years before a new company can even get started on this to say they're fixing up. And, you know, one wonders, and it's unfortunate because you have something like the mining industry says billions are being lost because their manganese and their raw material just can't get to the port. And when it's there, it just cannot get exported. It's a very tough situation, especially when you're dealing with broad-based losses of billions of rands, Bonginkosi. It may be difficult to digest, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And that's why we keep on raising the issue that this has become beyond the Transnet issue. As Transnet, we've come to the party, done what we need to do, and we've engaged our partners in China, which, by the way, we need to qualify. Our relationship with CRRC remains in solid grounds. Safe to say, they are just waiting for that green light from government to enable them to come to the party, to the extent that we've even issued letters for visas for their employees to come to the country to start working, but they cannot move forward until their accounts in the country have been unfrozen for them to do business. So for as long as that remains in effect, we will see more and more losses in revenue, which is why we are calling for private sector, government to come to the party to say, let's work together in trying to resolve this, which has become bigger than just a Transnet issue. It is an economic issue for the country as it stands now.
All right, Bonginkosi Mabaso, the Chief Commercial Officer at Transnet Freight Rail. Thanks very much indeed for your time.